welcome back to Blueprint Bootcamp Tournament Edition. Today we're going to be talking about BBTE-003, which is our plastic drawer. So stay tuned. Alright, welcome back to our third edition of the High School Heroes Blueprint Bootcamp Tournament Edition. We're going to be going over drawing number 3, a little plastic drawer, and a couple of things to talk about before we get into the drawing. This one, we're going to go a little bit slower because there is some definite things that you need to do that, when this happened in the tournament, I think this was one of the semifinal rounds or one of the earlier rounds. But the kids, when they did this, they were running into some problems and there were some hiccups. And so I'm going to talk about some things and how if you look at this and you can kind of plan ahead, that'll help you kind of get rid of some of these issues that you might run into. So let's jump over into the drawing and we'll take a look at what we got. So like always, we'll look at the bottom. Our unit system is millimeters and our material will be ABS. Title down here. And this is what we're drawing. So you'll see it's 2 colors because us in the community, we like to say that anytime you see any pink letters, you're going to be in for a treat with some Toby notes. So Toby left a note for us and said all yellow faces need to be 8 millimeter in wall thickness. So we'll talk about how to do that. Our final mass is, what is the mass of this part in XXX grams, tolerance of plus or minus 1 gram. So we know this is what it's going to look like from the top. If we look at the underside, this is what it should look like. And then we get into our drawings and how we need to make these things. So one thing that stands out to me is this section view, the section AA. It's going to show me 8 millimeter wall thickness. And so we see, where do we get that drawing from? It's showing from this section right here, this section AA. Okay. But I think when I draw this, what I'm going to do is draw it from this view right here. So I'm going to start from the top down. Then we'll add our thickness. I'm going to remove. You could do it with an extrude if that's the way you want to do it. And I'll show that way. I'm going to use the shell command because that's going to give me equal wall thicknesses all the way around. However, the problem is it gives you an extra part you're going to need to fix, and I can show you that. So let's go ahead and jump into Onshape. All right, once we are in here, let's go ahead and start a new sketch. Shift and S to start that sketch. I'm going to select the top plane, and I'm going to press N to normalize, P to hide those planes. Like I said, I'm going to start with a rectangle. It needs to be 260 wide by 140 tall. So I'm going to go ahead and use a center point rectangle by pressing letter R. Start on my origin. I'm going to go 260 by 140. And we have our shape here. So we'll take a look there. Afterwards, I need to draw, we'll kind of jump over here really quick. I need to draw this little chunk right here, this piece. Okay. So in doing so, what I'm going to have to do is draw myself a center line, or I can turn my planes back on and use that. I'm going to just kind of draw with this a midpoint line, and if we look, we'll see that that needs to be 55 millimeters. So we'll jump on over here. I'm going to select, if you follow me up here, I'm going to select the midpoint line. It's a really cool feature that helps, especially in speed modeling. We do this a lot. We have points that we ended up having to add a mid line to. So we're going to click here, and I'm going to tell it 55. And from there, I will be able to draw a line by pressing L and kind of going up here, drawing another line, going here. Now I know those are not perfect, but what I can do is if I select both of them and press the letter E, they are now equal. So no matter what I do to one, they'll kind of angle together. I'm going to give a dimension from here to here of 45 degrees. I'll zoom out there. The next thing I'm going to do is give it a dimension from here to here. It says on our drawing needs to be 17. So from the bottom of that to the outside wall needs to be 17. So once we're here, we're cooking. We're doing pretty good. Next thing we need to do is extrude this and make this a 3D object. Now, some people like to extrude. Let me do Shift and E, and we'll make this a solid object. And that needs to be 27 if we look at our drawing, 27 millimeters. Now this is fine. We're on the right track. We're doing good. Okay. But a couple of order of operation things you want to pay attention to. So if I rounded these corners first, they need to be a radius of 20 on the outside. 20, there we go, on the outside. When I go 3D, they'll already be rounded. So that's one kind of help. If I didn't do that, I'm going to undo that. I could use the fillet tool and select here and here like that and do the same thing. So whatever you want to do, and I know me and Toby have kind of gone back and forth talking about this before in some commentary. I do a lot of stuff in 2D views. He does a lot of stuff in 3D models. So I kind of am with him in that thought, that thinking that, you know, if you can change a fillet, I don't have to go up here into the sketch to figure out where I did that at. So I can edit that feature, and that's what you're going to want to do. So remember, when we do this stuff, we're doing it to work the right way. If I'm going to share this with somebody, I want them to be able to edit and change what I need to if we're working together. If I'm being selfish and I'm working on a project for myself, I kind of do whatever I'm comfortable with. But whatever's going to help you and your work team kind of work together is going to help there. Okay. Another thing we want to do, so we're going to turn this into a shell, and so I'm going to use that shell command, and it's going to ask me faces to hollow. So I'm going to, or faces to remove. I'm going to click this top face. Then it's going to ask me my shell thickness. And if we look at our drawing, all my walls are 8 millimeters thick. So we'll say okay, and we'll accept that. The problem is you run into this right here. So what I would have to do now is then take this face and do a thicken. And if we do the math, we know we made it 8, but if we go up the 17 that we originally had on my drawing, that will now come flush to there, and we can accept that and add that. And now I'm looking good, and that is what my final part should look like. We'll go ahead and click this and assign material. Material needs to be from Toby's Custom Materials, and it is made out of ABS. And we'll accept it. Come over here to the bottom to weigh, and I get 435.018. And if I check on my answer key, perfect answer is 435 with a tolerance of plus or minus 1. So 434 to 436. We are perfect, right on the dot, within tolerance. Now, I want to show you another way to do it. So remember, 435 is our answer, and we're going to change things and make sure we always end up with that 435. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the shell, and instead of adding that thicken, you could have done a second extrude. And so what would help there is when I first did my first extrude, instead of selecting all of this and let it auto pick, I can just select that one spot right there, say okay, and then I can do my shell of 8 millimeters. And then I could do another extrude of just this piece right here and say, I could type the 27, or to make it easy, I could say up to face and select my face. And now for the tournament, obviously, whoever gets the answer the quickest is going to be the better person, or they're going to get the answer, they're going to get the point. And for speed modeling, that's what we want. But in reality, let's say I were to change this to 30, and you'll see now that piece will always change with it. So that's kind of a cool thing, and kind of future-proof your drawings to make sure they work like that. So again, we already assigned our material. If we check our weight, our mass, we're still at 435 without having to use that thicken tool. I like the thicken tool though, because it's kind of something you can do to change things and go on the fly. Now, the other thing you could do, so if we get rid of the shell or the extrude, we get rid of the shell, we go back to our first extrude and we add that one back in. What we could do is draw a sketch on here, and we can say Shift and S. And what we can actually do is offset our wall but we don't want those pieces. We want, so I'm going to offset. We'll shut off our sketch so we're not looking at that. And I'm just going to pick all of these. And what's going to happen is we're going to have to draw another line. We'll flop in on the inside and we'll say 8 for our wall thickness. And then what I can do is just draw a line really quick there to there. And then now that I could remove, but this is where I'm going to have to do some math. So if we look at our drawing, we start with 27. We need an 8-inch or 8mm bottom, so 27 right here. 27 minus 8, and remove, not 825, 27 minus 8. There we go. We'll say accept. Our piece looks the same. We still have our material added already. Material, not material. And we're still at that 435 if you take a look right here on our answer. So a couple of different ways you could do it. Now, there is a way, let me scrap everything. We'll start from scratch. You could draw everything you need in the same drawing and do it all from different extrusions. So I am going to start on the top plane, Shift and S, and to normalize, P to hide those planes. Same thing like we did before, center point rectangle, 260 by 140. I'm going to round those corners to that 20, and we'll say okay. At this point, this is where I would offset, and I'm going to offset 8. And then from here, I'm going to draw my midpoint line from here down, boom. That needs to be 55. And then a line up to here, line up to here. I'm going to equal those two. Dimension from here to here has to be the 17. And a dimension from here to here needs to be 45. At this point, I could do this as my 27. We'll say accept. Turn my sketch back on, pick my piece here, and extrude that up, my 8, without having to do any math. I'm going to add it to that piece. We'll say okay. And assign material because I deleted everything. So again, 2 Tall Toby's materials with that ABS. We'll say okay. Click the little scale, and I still end up with that 435.018. So however you want to go about doing this, like I said, there's a million different ways to draw. And I think that's the best part of doing CAD and doing CAD in speed modeling is you can kind of find a bunch of different ways to go about doing things. You might find the wrong way, quote unquote, the wrong way to do it. And even by doing that, you're going to learn something. So whatever's going to help you get that final drawing. Like I told you guys, when I first started doing these things, I had no idea that I was using the wrong mass. And then I finally went through, part of that was my fault in the fact that I thought I knew what I was doing and I didn't read the simple directions that said add this for your mass. And I was driving myself nuts. So make sure you are adding and doing your drawings the way you feel most comfortable. Okay. So that's going to do it for us today. Tune in next week. We'll do number 4. I think I'm going to just get a bunch of these knocked out. We have field day season coming up. And I got some other big projects I've been working on. So we did finally get cleared for memberships. I just now have to make a bunch of logos and perks and all kinds of other stuff for you guys. So let me comment down below if there's some specific price point you feel like is good, fair, or maybe is crazy outlandish. I was thinking like $2 for like tier 1 with some basic stuff. You remember, you get some cool emojis and some other stuff for the YouTube chat. Doing like a $5 level where you would get access to polls and some other things. Like a $10 level where I'll answer some questions. You'll have maybe we'll start like a Discord or something where you can be a part of that if you paid like so much a month. And then like a higher tier level where you can choose to give me a video idea, but it's yours. Like you want me to make a specific thing. Maybe you're having trouble, like some of you guys have done, have reached out and asked how to do this specific project, or how would I draw a cabinet in Onshape from beginning to end. Do the membership, and that would be a perk that would go along with that. So still kind of brainstorming, don't exactly know prices and how to figure all that out. But I have been cleared, and I want to give you guys perks for being loyal members. So let me know what would work, how to do that, what you think, because we're finally making money on this apparently. So that's gonna do it for us. I will see you guys next week. Take care.